months ago, I never would have thought that I would have shushed a crowd, but every time I do it now, at the recommendation of the Deputy Commissioner a year ago, it works. So success breeds more success. So thank you for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Wally Kisheva, and I'm Dean of Community Engagement here at Naugatuck Valley Community College. And it's my responsibility today to help move along your discussion in this town hall meeting with President Margie Ojakian, the President of the Connecticut State Colleges and University System. You're here because you want to know more information. You're here because you have some information to share. And you're here also because you're an interested party, either for yourself, the students we serve, or the communities our service region helps to advance. There are a couple of things that about 6 things I would like to talk to you about very briefly before I introduce President Daisy Coco de Felippis, Naugatuck Valley Community College President, and then subsequently she will introduce President Ojakian. Ladies and gentlemen, our purpose today is to hear the community views, the students, the faculty, the staff, legislative views at your will about the consolidation proposals. The decorum for these kinds of meetings is always respectful. We are in a higher education institution, an education institution in general. This is a town hall meeting, one of the most democratic and important elements of a democracy, and certainly of our United States and this state. So the discourse will always be of mutual interest, but always be of mutual respect. I have asked you over the last few minutes, although I didn't do it in person, some very important people have asked you to do this, to sign up. Now when you sign up, what you're doing is you're alerting me as the moderator for the town hall meeting that you would like to speak. Should you want to speak but are not certain right now, don't hesitate to go out there and sign up again. I will be getting a refreshed sheet as we go along. Primarily because some of you may have questions that are prompted by the comments and by the presentation by the President. Ladies and gentlemen, so you will have an opportunity to do that. I will go through the list in roughly the order in which they came. We've got them in columns of faculty, staff, legislators, community members, and students. Not necessarily in that order will I be calling on you. When you come up to the microphone, please announce your name, state your name, and announce your affiliation. This session is being recorded, not for any other purpose than to be accurate and complete about the proceedings and about what you wanted to say and with the questions and the answers that you were given. There will be a rotation of speakers, and what I'm going to ask is, if Mary Jones is the name I call, Mary will come up to the microphone. I will also call a second name, John Jones. They're married, you know, you heard about that. And John Jones will be on deck somewhere, probably in that chair. Is that chair taken right there? Somebody help me out. Mr. Reyes, in front of you, sir. That's empty chair?
No,
yeah.
It's empty.
It's empty. Good. So there's a chair of honor for you to wait for the next person so we can move that process along. I'm going to ask you to talk into the microphone. The other aspect of the protocol and the process will be, I know you have a lot of things to say and we want to hear them. What I'm asking you, however, is to focus on the question rather than, in some instances, a very important but sometimes long story to get to it. So before you come up, and the first person will be our test case, so to speak, frame your question clearly and as precisely as you can and as briefly as you can. We're asking you not to ask follow-up questions, so get the question in mind, and please don't have like 5, 6, 7 different offshoots of it. Not that we can't remember it or we can't respond to it, but we would like you to focus and know that the person preceding you probably has asked the same question or similar to it, and the person succeeding you may follow up. When we ask the question, I'm just guiding you on spending 1 to 2 minutes asking the question. Sometimes you'll need a little background for your question, and that's fine. But again, please avoid a storytelling. Another point before I conclude this portion of our town meeting is this is going to be taped, and as we said, it's going to be taped, so you will be taped there for accuracy and completeness. The responses will be taped, etc., etc. Now, after I get through with the list, if I have a list that's all completed, and you decide you want to speak, I will at that point open it up to those who wish to speak right off the cuff without being their names listed. There are no prizes other than the importance that you will have a voice about some important matters that affect your lives as teachers, students, and community members. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure now to introduce President Daisy Coco de Filippis.
President Ojakian has come to share with us his strategies and his vision for the future of the Connecticut State Colleges and Universities. I'm very grateful that so many of you have come here to engage in this conversation. This is probably one of the most important conversations we will ever have, and I appreciate the attendance, understanding that it is 1 o'clock or so on a Monday where so many classes are taking place and both students and faculty who would have liked to be here would not be able to attend. It is, as Wally said, and it is always dialogue is the best form of democracy. I come from a place where dialogue was silence, and I grew up, my first 13 years of my life, having been silenced. So it is about asking, it is about listening. In the end, an educated person is a person who sometimes will sit and hear answers that they don't like, or questions that they don't like. So in the end, this is who we are. I extend our welcome to President Ojakian and thank him for coming out to talk with us. President.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Before we start, I want to know if I could take Wally with me around the state to the rest of the town halls, especially when I go to Central Connecticut State University tomorrow. So this is warm up. No, listen, it's a pleasure to be here today. I think this is perhaps my 6th or 7th town hall that I've done, which just began last week. And I'm really here to offer you a few brief comments on kind of where we are and maybe an understanding of the strategies that I've proposed and the board endorsed for where we go in the future. I'm always very interested in hearing from people. I'm not the smartest person in any room, nor do I pretend to have all the answers. I have with me Maribel from my team here today. I bring a team member with me now wherever I go, not for protection, but so that they can take notes, can take people's names who want to participate in the process as it moves forward, and just to get an understanding of what folks have said if I'm not able to capture it all together standing up here. So I just want to start out by saying that as I've looked at our system, our collective system over the past 16 months, that's as long as I've been your president, it seems like 16 years, but it really has only been 16 months. And as I looked at our financial situation, and I looked at our student population, and as I went around the state and talked to many student groups, on campuses, student town halls, statewide conference calls with students, looked at our tuition structure, it became clear to me that we had a financial problem. What I will call a structural deficit in the way that our system operates. And it's happened year after year after year. And it's poised to continue if we don't collectively take some corrective action to reach a point where it would become more sustainable and resilient as a system. Now, this is one of the 17 institutions that I work closely with. So I think when you look at our system, you have to look at all 85,000 students and all 17 institutions to be able to really make some sort of sense of where we are and where we want to go into the future. Now, when the governor's budget came out, I've said this many times, we received a 4.4% budget cut, $38 million on the low end. And I say the low end because there's conversations going on at the Capitol right now that would cut us more. And there are conversations up at the Capitol that would cut us more and direct me how to make those cuts. Because I've had these conversations directly. And the conversations go like this. You have too many community colleges, you need to close 2. Plain and simple. Both sides of the aisle. You know, there used to be a time when one side of the aisle would say, let's go. Both sides of the aisle now are coming and looking for that quick economic fix. Closing a small community college is $25 million. So for folks, it might be easy to close that college. For me, it's not something I would think of doing because of the students that would be impacted by that. So we take a look at the $38 million on one end, and then we take a look at, you know, there's conversations going on between labor and the administration. Budget assumes a $700 million savings from that. And if that's not achieved, our percentage cut in the budget would take our overall deficit from between $90 to $100 million if they were to cut the percentage out that was listed in the governor's budget. So what do you do? At the low end, the cut to this institution next year is almost $2.5 million. $5 million. And it continues and it continues and it continues. Now, it would have been much easier for me to sit back in Hartford and say, okay, President, you get $2.5 million more or less at the low end, and maybe $7 or $8 million less if there's no CBAC agreement. I could have said the same thing to the other institutions, which many of the institutions have a much more difficult financial situation than you do here, and have been tapping into their reserves year after year after year. But what gets cut? How much more cutting can be done campus by campus and still maintain the high quality academic programming and affordable programming that the students expect and deserve? I was not going to propose closing a campus. Under no circumstances was I going to propose doing that. It's too hard for our students to get to the institution that they currently go to. Closing a campus would have disrupted their lives, disrupted their education, and that was not going to happen on my watch. Is that somebody's phone? Somebody was whistling. So, as a leader, I think it's important to try to move the conversation forward. And to say to folks who are not used to traditionally talking to each other across 17 institutions, we're a system, how should we function differently? So that at a point in time, we get to where our resources exceed our expenditures. We can put more money back into institutions in terms of faculty and student support services. And how about in the year 2020, which is my goal, because this is a 2-year implementation process, having a conversation about not increasing tuition at all, as opposed to what percentage are we going to increase it. That is my goal. My goal is to work stakeholders on the campuses to figure out how we get to implementing the two strategies that I proposed. One, as 17 institutions, we should be taking better advantage of our bulk purchasing power and administrative functions to benefit the students. We started work groups last year where people probably from this room participated on some of the work groups. Purchasing, human resources, financial aid processing. We made some progress. The savings of that effort was $5 million over 2 years. So we had to take it a step further. I refuse to believe that we can't use the largeness of our system to benefit our cost structure. Maybe somebody will prove me wrong as this process goes on, and I'm always the first one to say we should change direction, we should go here as opposed to there. Like I said, I don't have all the answers. And the second strategy, now remember these are strategies, not a plan, with a savings target. The second strategy says, in a state the size of Connecticut, 12 community colleges, and many of our community colleges in real financial trouble, should we take a look at how we consolidate the administration structure differently? I haven't said what it would look like, but should we take a look at how we would arrive at a different centrally managed operation so we don't have to close locations? Those are the choices. This doesn't go forward, there's going to be two that are going to have to close. And it's not a threat. It's not a do it my way or you're going to feel bad about your colleagues and students somewhere else. It's the reality of the situation. Now, I will never stand up here and say something I don't believe or commit to something I can't do. I will always be honest. Whether or not we agree or not is another thing. But I would be derelict in my responsibility as the president of the system if I just sat back and didn't try to do something to change the business model of our system and do it to benefit the students who go to our schools. It's that simple for me. We're in the process of assembling planning teams in those functional areas that will work towards the goal. And we have been asked by the leaders of different constituencies, whether it be a union leadership or a faculty leadership, or to have them provide us with who they would like to sit on the committees, and I respect that process. If you're not on one of those groups and want to participate, that's why we're taking names. Because everybody that wants to have their voice heard, we will have that, let that voice be heard. And we will work until we come up with a product that everybody can live with. We might have to compromise along the way, but I want this to be an effort that's collectively pursued. There's a reason I didn't come up with a plan. On the one hand, I'm getting criticized for not having a plan. On the other hand, I'm getting criticized for having a plan. And so I don't know what could have been done differently to set a strategic direction for the system and then put teams together to help us get there. Now, if we get halfway through and we can't get there, we can't get there. But I think it's worth the time and the effort to do that. So with that, I will open it up to questions and comments.
Great. Our first sign-up person is Christopher Gordon. Christopher Gordon, please repeat your name. Make sure that I pronounced it correctly. I believe I succeeded on that one. And your affiliation, and proceed, please. Thank you.
My name is Christopher Gordon. I'm a student here. I'm a student and a worker here. For the past year, I've worked at the college, and through a very generous grant from a private individual, I've been employed here. And because of that, I've been even more motivated. Is there any way to reach out to private individuals to help them fund student workers, to help them put back into the school?
Absolutely, and I think we need to do more of that. And what I've been doing when I'm not here or in other places is I'm having meetings with the head of Pratt & Whitney, with the head of Sikorsky, with the head of Electric Boat, right? These businesses want our students as their future employees. And we need to be that pipeline, but we can't do it alone. We're going to need private support to help us in no matter what direction we end up going in. For example, in the manufacturing center, it costs, I think, $16,000 to educate somebody to go into that 10-month certificate program. And I think we only charge $8. And we only charge $8 because if we charge $16, we would price out the students that we need to go into those jobs. So the institution has to pick up that difference. I want industry to help us pick up that difference. I want industry to offer us the financial support that we need to be able to have our students take those programs, not at the expense of the institution.
Our next speaker is Dr. Lisa Dresner, followed by Lynn Franklin Henry.
Hi, I'm Dr. Lisa Dresner. I'm the Associate Dean of the Liberal Arts and Behavioral Sciences, and thank you for the opportunity to ask questions. My question has to do with shared governance, curricular decision-making, and oversight of our programs that we have developed to meet the needs of our service community. So in short, will we be allowed to keep our own shared governance structure that's unique to our institution through which we vet and make decisions about our programs?
Yes. The answer is yes.
Hi, my name is Lynn Franklin Henry, and my association with Schools Foundation Board Member, and now on the Advisory Council. My experience in the community is a lot of strategic planning for both profit and nonprofits. So I know these are extremely financial times, and that most organizations have quite lengthy strategic plans and missions. And from what I heard of what I thought was a plan, not a strategy, with very specific outcomes, I didn't see how they met the mission of either the Board of Regents or the overall academic structure. So I'm trying to figure out how that fits in. I guess my question now, since I got a little confused by your presentation, is exactly what your specific strategy is. Which positions are you proposing would be eliminated?
I don't have a specific strategy on which positions would be eliminated. What I have is that we need to better manage the 12 community colleges. And how we do that, is it a regional model? Is it less than that, more than that? I think that's what we're asking. Dr. Rook has taken the invitation that I gave to him. He's the president of Northwestern, to actually work with the presidents to come up with different options. But if we don't shrink in certain places the number of administrators, and I'm not saying here or there, but if you look across the 12 in the state of Connecticut, the number of administrators, I think we could do better in more of a regional model, for example.
Do you think it's better to reward excellence and continue excellence than try to uphold an entire system that maybe isn't working as well? Some institutions are. That's just my own.
No. Listen, and I appreciate that comment, and that's why the things that we have looked at, where we've looked at other jurisdictions that have integrated some of their management, some of their administrative functions. We've tried to take the lessons that they've learned. We've tried to look at best practices. But all I laid out was a strategy. that I would like to see if there's a way to centrally manage the colleges, to keep the campuses all where they are. So we may get there, we may not get there, but not having this conversation, I think, does a disservice to the students of the other institutions that perhaps would need to close. And then what do you do with those? What do you do with those students? Say sorry, go to a private, school where they just, quite honestly, want to get you in to get the federal financial aid dollars, and then look at their graduation rates. I care, and I know everybody does in this room. I know I keep saying this, but I never thought I would be this invested in the students when I first took this job. I mean, I'm serious. But having worked with them and listened to them, I feel this responsibility to all of them. And that's why I'm trying to find the best path forward.
I believe we have two people who signed up on the same line. My assumption is they want to come up as a duo. Emily Sola and Giselle Tito. Apparently I was right.
They went separate ways.
Well, they'll join in the center.
Emily Sola, and I'm graduating here with a degree in forensic psychology, or forensic science, sorry.
Graduating in general studies. We have been a part of the community college scholars program here on campus since 2015. We're graduating in May successfully within a 2-year period with the admission GPA going up to a 3.96.
So our question for you is that your plan is called Student First. What has made me successful is my advisor Rachel, and I was wondering, as part of this plan, how are you prioritizing like programs like this, which has made me very successful and has given me the opportunity to have such a high GPA, because she has advised me with a lot of my classes and advised me personally. So that's my question to you: is how does your plan prioritizing programs like this?
My strategy is just prioritize teaching, learning, and student services. Services that help a student stay in school and ultimately graduate. I get concerned when I'm asked by the legislature to put together a chart, and they ask me, what is the ratio of advisors to students in the system? Right, academic advisors. Now I know that there's a lot of other people who aren't titled academic advisors that actually mentor and advise students. I totally understand that. But when you look at the ratios of people specifically designated to do that, the system average is 1 advisor to 849 students. Here, it's 1 advisor, that's what I was looking at, because I always carry this with me. Now I said there's a lot more that goes into advising than just these positions, but these are people specifically designated to do these positions. Visitor parking, obviously I'm going to get towed. It's 1 to 858, so it's about the system-wide average. I was just at Gateway Community College the other day, where it was 1 advisor to 2,250 students. Now, that's not saying there's only 1 person that is advising or mentoring the students. But what that's saying is we need to be able to be in a position to put more money into those positions. I'm going to Central Connecticut State University tomorrow. They have 2 health and wellness counselors for the entire campus. They're poised to get a $6.5 million cut next year in the governor's budget. So what are they going to cut? Health and wellness counselors? I don't know. But I am in total support of programs like the ones that have made you successful. I'm sure a lot of that you did on your own. I can tell the 2 of you are very highly motivated people. But I'm not looking to diminish those services. I'm looking not only to preserve, but to enhance. And I'll just tell you one other, I know you told me to be short too, but I mean, I think it's important. And I don't know if anybody here was on that call, but before we raised tuition, oh, I think you were, because you asked me a question. Before I proposed the tuition increase to the board, what I wanted to do was talk to the students first. So I convened a conference call with all the student leaders across the state and explained to them what the tuition increase was going to be, what it meant in terms of a monthly increase. You know, in some cases, $8 a month for a student here is a lot. I get it. At a university, $38 a month is a lot. I get it. But we need tuition at this point in our system's history as a revenue generator. So I had the students upset it was too high, and administrators upset it was too low, because there wasn't going to be the tuition dollars that they were going to need. So I said to the students, I explained this all to them, and asked for questions, clarified some things. And then one student said, President Ojakian, I know you're asking us to invest more in the cost of our education, but will you promise us that you will do whatever you can to preserve and enhance the services on our campuses? Right from the mouth of a student. And it was a community college student, as a matter of fact. I think it was from Danielson. So I made that promise. And so here I am, you know, because I'm doing what I think is the right thing to do.
Peter Angelostro, followed by John Monteleone.
Peter Angelostro, I'm the Director of Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math here. So my question is, students first, and one of the strategies is looking at cutting down administration. A regional strategy or some other plan that is developed. My question is, no matter what type of plan is developed, the back of the house affects the front of the house. So if IT gets cut down, or then there's going to be less services for students' computers. If purchasing gets consolidated, is it going to take longer? I run a science and engineering department where I have tons of purchasing going on all the time. Is it going to slow that down? In which case, it hurts the students. And so how do you envision consolidating services, cutting services to not affect?
Okay, well, when we talk about the administrative consolidation of those kinds of functions, right, we're not talking about eliminating the functions. We're talking about integrating them in such a way that we can leverage our expertise around 17 institutions. The purchasing, for example. There will still be purchasing people on the campuses. As part of the work groups last year, the purchasing work group did a lean exercise. And they spent a whole week at Manchester Community College taking a look at what are the redundancies in the system, what slows it down, what is paper versus technology, and they came up with two strategies. One was in the short term, how to eliminate some of that bureaucracy, but the second was at some point in time, shouldn't we have one point of central purchasing so that all the paper, all the pens, every good and service can be bid out once, and we get the bulk purchasing leverage that I think we need. We're not looking to cut IT. We're looking to see, for example, I mean, what's the software packages we're using across the system? Are there redundancies in those packages? How can we maybe streamline some of that to save some money? So it's not bringing people into Hartford, right? My staff gets cut by 13% under this strategy. Okay, so I'm not growing at all. What we're looking to do is leverage the expertise we have from 17 institutions and really start behaving like a system, right? Some people continue to have the conversation that happened in 2011 about, I was forced to do this, I don't want to be this. Well, folks, I'm sorry, we're here, right? And we're here, and we have to learn that we need to work together, and we need to figure out a way, where possible, to save money so we can provide those student support services that I think we need. Okay.
John Monteleone, followed by Mark Cosera.
My name is John Monteleone. I'm with the foundation here at the college. In your letter, you sent out a bunch of letters which were very helpful, and thank you for the opportunity to have this discussion. You mentioned in one of your letters that you're proposing operational consolidation of the 12 community colleges, requiring centrally managed while maintaining their unique mission, geographic location, and local community connections. My question is, has anyone done this? I mean, are there other states where there is a successful model that we can look at, replicate, and apply to the state of Connecticut?
First of all, thank you for your question. And secondly, you're probably going to get, or whoever is the head of the foundation is going to get another letter from me either later today or tomorrow that really speaks to the fact that all the foundations are going to stay intact, right? So we're not looking to have one foundation raise money for one centrally managed system. I realize how important the local connections are, the community interaction, and the role of the foundation, especially at an institution like this. So you're going to be getting something reassuring you that that's what my intention is. Now, we looked at models in Miami-Dade, Florida. Miami-Dade County is actually as big as Connecticut, and they've implemented a model similar to this. Ivy Tech in Indiana has looked at this. Rhode Island only has 3 community colleges, but they have it centrally managed. Vermont has a few, they have it centrally managed. So we're trying to look at what's out there, but because I really do believe that our system is unique and our state is unique, to create a model that's Connecticut specific that works for Connecticut.
Thank you.
Mark, followed by Lisa Boyko.
Mark Sierra, student and student worker here at Ojakian Valley.
Would you please speak into the mic a little?
Oh, sorry.
You can lift it out of the thing so you can be heard if you wish.
Mark Sierra, student and student worker here at Ojakian Valley. My questions regarding, it's similar to one of the previous questions, but anyways, in your proposal, you distinguish between student-facing faculty and non-student-facing faculty now. And it's clear to me that these are very interdependent on each other. Now, how will this consolidation not negatively impact academics and student services, in particular, like financial aid and disability services?
First of all, the 2 strategies don't impact academic quality at all. Academic programming and curriculum development, similar to how we moved forward with a transfer and articulation pathway program that was faculty driven. Any sort of conversations around, around programming is going to have to be done with that, through faculty. So what we're looking to do, so let's talk about financial aid for a minute. What we're looking to do is to see if there's a way that we can integrate the processing of the applications so that the resources on the campus have more time to deal directly with the students. Because right now, in some of our campuses, many financial aid applications take a long time to get processed, or they don't get processed at all. So what happens? Student goes somewhere else. So if we are able to figure out a way to centrally integrate some of that processing, not the actual interaction with the students, not how money is awarded. I mean, how about having a system where maybe there's one one admissions application for 12 institutions, or one financial aid form for 12 institutions. I want to find a way that we adapt what we do as opposed to students having to adapt what they do to fit into our model. I want to reverse that around.
What about for disability services?
I would stay where it is. I mean, see, what I'm trying to convey is that all of these local functions that are campus-based would remain where they are. So the disability office or function would remain, and maybe at some point we could enhance what they do. I don't know how many people currently do that. This is a very well-run institution, thanks to your president. But wouldn't it be nice to have more? Would it be nice to have more?
Lisa Boyko, followed by Susan Anderson.
Good afternoon, President Ojakian. My name is Lisa Boyko. I am the Associate Director of Financial Aid Services and Veteran Affairs. Interesting.
See, you have two roles.
Yes, our office does serve two functions, financial aid and VA services. My question you actually just answered in part regarding the financial aid processing, as it is, in one of your emails, you had mentioned the financial aid processing as an administrative area. Since we see financial aid as such a vital part of student services, how does removing the processing, as you just mentioned, impact our office? I know you say it's going to allow us to spend more time with the students, but will that also leave us vulnerable to consolidation as well?
No, because I think one of the most important things you can do is interact face-to-face with students. And so the concept is to find ways to integrate some of the administrative processing work, right? Because how many people do you have in your office?
So we have our director, a secretary, and then there are 3 of us processing about 5,000 to 6,000 applications. And then 2 of those 3 also process between 400 to 500 VA applications.
So you're processing.
Yes. To say
So wouldn't it be nice if you didn't have to do all of that processing and you could actually interact more closely with students, especially in the veterans area? I just went to a campus that has no money to provide any support to their OASIS Center. Now, I don't think that's the case here. I'm just saying, when I travel around and I hear these examples of our veterans that are relying on the goodwill of the community when the institution should be making an investment in that center, they don't even have a full, you split your time, right? And so wouldn't it be nice to have a full-time veterans center coordinator? Now, we're never going to be able to get there if we don't have some of these conversations and try to figure out together. One of the work groups that was very successful last summer was the financial aid work group. And led by Dr. Brody of Housatonic, they moved the ball forward to come up with some very specific recommendations on how to do that and not impact you.
Thank you.
Susan Anderson, followed by Kayla Franco.
Hi, President Ojakian. Thank you for coming. I have multiple questions, but I'll just
Well, we
narrow
only
it
said
down.
one.
I know.
I don't set the rules, I just show up.
So, multiple proposals. I'm curious how the 28 million saved with the consolidation of the community colleges was calculated. And then the interval would be a 1 to 2 year implementation. And then in the possible but not recommended, the 4 CSUs consolidated would save 48 million and take 4 years. I don't quite get how it's going to be easier to consolidate 12. Where did the 28 million come from? It had to come from.
Yeah, no, it did. Okay, so the whole savings target of the 13 and the 20 and the 28 is based on an overall workforce reduction in certain areas over 2 years of about 400 people. We have 11,000 employees. We have not taken, I think, the best advantage of our attrition calculations and ratio or our retirements. My preference has always been, which is why there has not, I've not issued one layoff notice since I've been your president, when 1,500 other state employees have gone out the door, nor am I preparing layoff notices like the executive branch where 4,200 layoff notices are being prepared. Because I really believe that that is the last possible way to do things. So it was based on a number of positions, average salaries of those positions. Like I said, it's a target, not set in stone. But as we looked at the number across 12 institutions, it was very easy to calculate that we could get at least $28 million after it's fully implemented. Now, it won't be implemented for 2 years. So in the next couple of years, things are going to be still really tough. And in some cases, in some of our institutions, we're going to have to tap into reserves to keep the institutions afloat. But we thought as we rolled out these 2 initial strategies that these 2 made the most sense in 2017. I monitor the retirements, by the way, every month now, right? Because I want to make sure that I understand what's going out there or what's going on in the system. Are people, as it gets closer to July, retiring? If there's a CBAC agreement, I remember in 2011 when I negotiated that agreement for the governor, when July 1st came, we saw state employees just running out the door because their benefit levels were going to change as retirees if they didn't retire by July 1st. But I think we need to be very strategic in the way that we hire, right? And when I set forth a hiring freeze, it was so people would understand that A, that there was a problem in our finances, and B, what is the strategy for filling this position over another position? Don't come to me and say, and it didn't happen here, but don't come to me and say, I need a new vice president of this or a vice president of that, but I don't have enough people to keep my buildings clean. Or I have to not have security after 6 o'clock at night. Or I'm not going to hire a part-time librarian, instead I'll just keep the library closed. How does that help students?
Kayla Franco, followed by Giovanni Cruz. But before Kayla speaks, I'd like to talk to the concern that people say, limiting it to one question. Just to understand, please, to clarify. That's so as many people get to speak as possible. At the end of this list, and we're about 60% there, I will open it up again and to people, so you'll raise your hand, I'll recognize you, and then you get to speak yet again. Okay, thank you.
Till 3 o'clock, right?
5:30, I think you said, sir.
I have to do another one of these, okay? So this is not, I started my morning at the Middlesex Chamber of Commerce at 7:15, and I'm just kind of going with my protein shakes in the car.
Good afternoon, President Ojakian. I just want to thank you again for being here. It was nice seeing you Friday.
Upcoming.
So I'm the student government president, and you know that, so so I was curious to know, other states are investing in dual enrollment programs where high school students can graduate with their associate's degrees, meaning more graduation, less debt, and more educated people working in the state and paying taxes. Why are we doing that large scale here in Connecticut?
Well, because I think we're starting to move in that direction. And I think there was actually some Pell Grant money awarded for dual enrollment. The problem we've had with that is there's a miscommunication on what you can use your Pell money for, right? So people, right? She's right in your hand. So people think they use it up before they get to college, and they can actually use it and then go to college and still have their Pell money intact. So we need to do a better job of communicating all of this, but we need to take advantage of every dollar we get outside. You know, one of the best programs that we've had so far has been our Second Chance Pell Grant money. And for example, up at Nantucket, which is surrounded by prisons in Enfield, they saw their enrollment increase dramatically because of the use of that dollar. And as you saw when you were at that meeting the other day, one of the students that spoke had just got out of prison and was in the manufacturing program. So we're doing some good work, and we just have to get the word out better about the dual enrollment program. You're welcome. Keep up the good work. Great student body president.
Giovanni Cruz, followed by Carlos Romero.
Hello, President Mark. My name is Giovanni Cruz.
Good to pronounce the last name? I'm kidding.
I like Mark better. So I'm a writing tutor here at NVCC. I'm also in I think I'm going to be a NVCC baby before I die. And so I found it today, the opportunity to, again, speak on behalf of the students. And so I don't have any questions. I do have some comments. And I think the common theme about today is worry. When I read your email, my first impression was, oh my God, I'm so worried. I think context matters. I think when you think about NVCC, the people that work here, the president, the deans, we know who we are serving. We serve approximately 7,000 students each semester, ethnically diverse. A lot of them come from Waterbury. They're low-income, first-generation college students. And if you look at some scholarly research, these students come with a lot on their plate. And so when I thought about the elimination of these important people that know the students that we serve, who is going to advocate for them? Who? I started NVCC with being the first in my family. I came with a lot of anxieties, and I'm going to be graduating in a couple weeks with a 4.0 at the University of St. Joseph, but my foundation started here. And it was Daisy, and it was others that advocated for people like me. Why? Because they get it, they understand it, they know who they serve. And so when I hear about, the financial aid being cut, and so when you see these students that have a lot of anxiety and a lot of baggage, and if they have one simple question about financial aid and they are given this 1-800 number or whatever it is, they are going to drop out. They are going to give up very quickly. And so if there aren't any physical people to assist their needs and that really get it, what is going to happen? I'm worried. And so what is going to take away this feeling that I have? And so I think about, please think about this and really think about the important details of what is at stake here. The people that we serve at the tutoring center, is that going to close because we don't have Daisy advocating for us? And so what is going to happen? This is scary, and I feel like this change is not going to be a sustainable change. I feel like in many years from now, people are going to realize, holy crap, we made a mistake, and then they're going to have to start from the very beginning again, and the ones that suffer are the vulnerable people. They're the ones that are going to continue to be in a very disadvantaged position. They're the ones we're just going to see the poor getting poorer. Yes, I am a little paranoid, but yes, I understand that there's a system, and when you eliminate the macro system, it's going to trickle down into the micro system, and there is going to be some sort of disequilibrium. And so I'm worried.
And so the reason I'm here is to talk about those concerns. And because taken out of context, you would think that's what was going to happen. I don't want to replace this young lady with a 1-800 number. I want to find more people like her to be able to answer your questions. I want to find more people in the tutoring center to be able to help the students. I think what you people need to think about is there are many students in colleges like this who face their campus closing. And I know I keep saying that, but it's real. And so while, this campus would never close, there's others that serve just as vulnerable populations as this does. Out in rural Connecticut, I mean, it might not be, diversity galore out there, but there's poor people that live in the northeastern part of Connecticut. That if their institution closed, they'd have nowhere to go. So I am very aware of everything that you just said, and thank you for being so articulate in saying it. I am not going to move anything to the end without being very satisfied that it's not going to hurt the students. That's the commitment I made that day on the phone. It's the commitment I made to them from day one. So we can have the conversation. The conversation is important. Because, for example, if we just said, year after year after year, you're going to get $2.5 million, maybe $3 million less next year, maybe $5 million or $6 million less year after that, and student financial aid funds in the state have been cut in the budget by $2.5 million each year. I mean, what do you do to try to be responsive, not only to the students, but to the financial situation that we find ourselves in? So not doing anything, I think, would be short-sighted of me.
No, I agree. Okay, cough the mic on me. No, I get it, and I'm hearing you, and I'm like, the fact that you have so much passion for your students, like that's something that we can relate to. And yeah, it's very, very difficult. And I feel like, unfortunately, we're in this situation because of, political reasons. But can we get a bailout? I mean, I feel like education is something that's being cut over and over again.
Right.
Yes, we need a bailout.
I think the problem, quite honestly, is that people don't prioritize where they spend their money. So when you look at the state budget, you tend to do more across the board cuts than prioritize, where you're going to cut. I don't know how it's done at each campus, but I've been to campuses where it's like every department got a 5% or 7% cut. Okay, well, that might be good for some places, but then you're not prioritizing what you do. And so we're constantly making the argument that we should be considered an investment, not an expense. States, as a state representative, the state's in a tough place. And so, we can make the arguments, we can showcase our students up at the Capitol as we did last Friday and in front of appropriations, and it makes a huge impact. The political dynamic up at the Capitol is different than any dynamic I've seen in 37 years now since I've been in that building. And so we're trying as hard as we can because we owe it to you and to the other students to give them the best that we can. And that's why if we don't as leaders and administrators have a tough conversation about how we do things differently, we're never going to get there. We should not have to have you change to meet our needs.
Thank you. I'm going to email you my questions.
Yeah, and right, and anybody else, sometimes there's not enough time or people feel shy in front of other people, especially saying something nice. Feel free. I had somebody at one of my last town halls who came up to me after and said, I didn't want to say it in front of everybody. I thought they would have shot me. Send me an email with suggestions, comments, concerns. I actually read my emails and respond to my emails. So feel free to reach out if you don't have a chance or are not comfortable today.
Carlos Romero, followed by Kathy Taylor. And to follow up on President Ojakian's request for comments, there are a number of you in the audience who have submitted written testimony, which will be shared and entered into, quote, the record for this afternoon's town hall meeting. Carlos Romero.
Hello, my name is Carlos Romero, and I'm Vice President of Student Government.
Where's your bow tie?
Not today. I just want to start off by saying I hope we can have you back for Constitution trivia.
I told Kathy, right? Don't judge a contest. Never.
Growing up, single mom, dad wasn't there, went to the military, got deployed in war, and so I know how it feels to have something and love something, and the next day, tomorrow's not promised. Growing up was tough, but one thing I always feared was losing a loved one. But ever since I enrolled into college and I got involved into student government, now something that I can say that I fear is education, losing education. And I have a fear of telling mom, hey, I'll walk the stage next semester, that she won't be able to hear those words. But I choose the books instead of choosing the streets. And that made a big impact in my life. So when I speak upon on behalf of the student body. So as a part of student government, we approve the use of student funds to enhance the student experience and engagement throughout the campus activities and trips. So my question is, will there be enough resources to support the staff and the faculty to continue with these activities and even expand them?
I think ultimately the goal is to expand those activities, and nothing that I'm talking about would impact what you're doing. I mean, the promise I made to you and others is that I want to see you walk across that stage. I want others to walk across the stage. I want to make sure we have the education that you need and deserve. And that's why we have to make some tough decisions to make sure that that opportunity is not only given to you, but to a future generation just like you. I take my responsibility to you very seriously. And I want to make sure that whatever we do, we always keep in mind, or I always keep in my mind, students first. It's not just a slogan, not just some jargon for public relations purposes. I went to an event last week and they had, students first with little pink things and a big question mark. I said, listen, you can disagree with me on the approach or the plan or the results or wherever we go, but please don't question my motivation. And I will stand up in front of a very hostile crowd tomorrow that's probably taking a vote of no confidence in me today. And I'll take the same questions, probably not as respectful as here, but I'll take the same questions because those students deserve me as much as you do.
I just want to end it off as, when you are making these decisions, just put yourself in our shoes, in the students' shoes, and think of us as your children and what are your children in the future going to have to face, because we are the future of this country. So,
and we're going to have students participating. As a matter of fact, on the steering committee, overseeing all this, we have Holly Palmer, who is your student regent from the Student Advisory Committee. And we're going to look to populate the other planning committees with students. And I've asked Holly to reach out and figure out the best way to do that. Because I want to hear from the students. I'll tell you one other little funny story, is that when we were looking for a president of Southern, we go through this whole process, you read the resumes, you have the board of regents, you have the faculty, the University Advisory Committee, and the person who shaped my opinion the most was the student on the search. When she actually gave her opinion of the three candidates and which one would do the best job with students, and that's who we hired. So I will not forget you. Thank you.
Kathy Taylor, followed by Levi Reynolds.
Good afternoon.
afternoon, President Ojakian. If no one has told you anything nice today, it's a very nice shirt and tie. But here's a very serious question, and it relates to both what Carlos said as well as your mom. Typically, when organizations consolidate, there are winners and losers. And I know you said students first, and I don't doubt that motivation. But what mechanisms, what structural mechanisms are you putting in place to ensure that our most vulnerable students are not marginalized in this process? Because one of the things that I know and most of us know in terms of the impact on vulnerable students, you have to be both intentional and purposeful to make sure that they don't suffer negative consequences. Thank you.
And first of all, thank you for the wardrobe compliment. I always appreciate when somebody recognizes what it takes for me to get ready in the morning. It matches, right? But I want to make sure when we move this process forward that we pay particular attention to those students you are speaking about. You know, I appreciate the struggles that all of our students go through, but especially our marginalized students. You know, I visit rainbow centers and talk to transgendered students. We pushed forward in the Board of Regents last month a resolution that basically said transgendered students can go to the bathroom, use the locker room where they identify with. We're pushing forward the undocumented student financial aid bill. And I've been approached by students with tears in their eyes saying, please help me stay here and get my education. I know from talking to folks what difficulties students of color have on our campuses. Students that don't speak English on our campuses. So while I represent 85,000 students, the students that are foremost in the front of my mind are those students that have a more difficult time just because of who they are. And I'm going to fight and make sure that whatever we do helps them continue the education that they deserve.
Excuse me, Jason Seabury, followed by Bonnie Goulet.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Jason Seabury. I'm an assistant professor of mathematics here at Naugatuck Valley. I'm also the chair of the General Education Committee. And I think I and a lot of others have questions about what the one system, one campus, one college policy is going to kind of imply for us. And specifically, I'm wondering about how things such as general education have been implemented differently at every college. And I'm wondering whether there will be kind of one system-wide committee. I know that you've already answered the question about curriculum and how we're each going to have to
But isn't there a committee now on general education? Isn't there a committee that's working through the system on what? Isn't there a faculty?
There is an advisory committee, but because the system is being implemented differently, a lot of this has fallen on our individual college registrars to try to figure out which things are going to transfer and in which way. So I'm just wondering, I think that there are a lot of opportunities with a one college and how if we're able to kind of create a system where things will transfer seamlessly, and I know that there are groups that are working on that, but I'm wondering if there's any vision for kind of faculty bodies that will have decision-making powers across all of the colleges, or if the faculty bodies are going to be specific to the colleges and kind of stay that way there.
Well, I think nothing envisions the the faculty autonomy on each campus from continuing. And I think there's been great success with the TAP program in getting, I think now 26 majors seamlessly. I think we have 800 students now that are enrolled in our TAP program. But that was faculty driven. That was faculty, working with faculty. I sat in a couple of those implementation meetings and I thought, I think I'm not a member of a faculty, because they were really difficult conversations. And I know sometimes, you know, there was some elitism, I'll say it before somebody else does, that was expressed from one group to another group. And I know that there's conversations happening about what constitutes a general education program and what can be included in that. But no, I leave academic quality and programming to you, to the system provost, and to all the other academic administrators on campuses to figure out what's the best thing that you can do for students.
Ani Goulet, and then Geraldo Reyes.
Good afternoon, President Ojakian. Thank you for being here. I'm Bonnie Goulet. I am Director of Student Development Services, so my office encompasses advising, counseling, testing, and disability services. So we're in a unique position. I love your Student First initiative in saying that, because that is what I think we live on a daily basis as we see students from when they first come in all the way through graduation. And I understand and heard what you're saying about how it was very difficult to increase tuition. But at the same time, there was also a change to the fee structure and some added costs that were given to students that goes against students being first, partially because some of that is some of the programs that are most impacted by that would be, say, our ECE program, which has a lot of contact hours versus credit hours, and they potentially are going to not have the highest income when they finish here.
So, let me address that, because I think when that came forward to us, actually from the presidents, not your president, because your president, I'm giving you credit. No, she's never, no, she's always, even a lone wolf at times, but the other presidents came, I'll be very honest, and the other presidents came and said, why aren't you raising tuition more? We need more money. And I said, not going to do it. And they said, well, here's a fee structure, and we'll get rid of these fees, and we'll put these fees in, and it'll be based on contact hours. And then we found, and actually one of my first town halls, a student stood up and asked me the question and sent me a follow-up email. And I told my team, we need to fix this. This isn't fair to some of the students. Is there a way that we can maybe cap it and then revisit it? And I think that's what we're looking to do for the fall. Because I know that that's an unintended consequence of putting in the new fee structure. So, yes. And it was a student that brought it to me.
Geraldo Reyes, and then Nicole Hayes. Is Nicole here? I don't see her.
Good afternoon, President Ojakian. So, I've been sitting here for well over an hour, and I really came with a litany of questions, but I think it's fair that I submit those, President Ojakian. I will submit that testimony to your office. But I'll tell you, as I sat right here and as a conflicted person, as a student who actually walked this very hall in this very college. I graduated from here in the 80s from Waterbury State Tech, former Waterbury State Tech, right out of this building. So when I heard that young lady back here talking about that first generation, so you're looking at a first generation student to graduate from grammar school, high school, and college in my whole entire family. And we had the opportunity to come to this university when it was just Mattatuck College, and then before the Long-Tuck Valley Community College was actually materialized. But my point being, it's a Hispanic serving community. It's what it's developed to. So Waterbury, Norwalk, and Hartford have that 25% minimum threshold. And believe me when I tell you, there was no big time Division I school looking for me to go to back in the 80s. And I thought that I was going to be the next Roberto Clemente. And there was nobody looking for me. And when I found myself graduating from Crosby High School, and my only alternative, the only affordable solution was right here in Waterbury, this community college right here. And I shared this story with Dr. Daisy several times. We've had nine of my siblings have come through here, and 6 have graduated. And it was really the only affordable alternative for people like us. And I stress that being from socioeconomical disadvantaged background doesn't stop you from leveling the playing field through education. And I have been afforded the greatest life I've been spent a lifetime as an engineer, and I have been afforded the greatest life with the basic general foundation that I got right here. And I 100% support community colleges, as I testified when you came up to the legislator. And it's interesting because I say I'm conflicted because as I'm speaking to President Ojakian, I will also be voting on this budget at the end of June. So this is how this is how difficult it is. So I am somebody that came in from the ground up, and now I'm sitting in Hartford, and I will be voting on the very suggestions of President Ojakian and many other commissioners and presidents. And I really have a world of respect for what you have to do, but I also would like you to never forget, as that young lady said, those that almost have no other affordable option. Thank you, sir.
Representative, thank you for your comments. And the point I want to kind of continue to emphasize is, I'm not looking to close down this institution. If we don't find a different way of operating 12 colleges, then there might be some students who won't have the opportunity that you have in this great institution. So unless you can find a magic bullet up in the legislature and provide us with the funding I think we really not only need but deserve, because I believe, like you do, that education is the great equalizer, and without it, we're lost. So I hear what you're saying. I don't envy your position up there, because at the same time I'm coming to you and saying, we need more money for education, you're going to get people with physical disabilities or intellectual disabilities or senior citizens. I mean, I'm up there when you're up there. I see the constituencies that are up there competing for the limited amount of money. So hopefully we can work together, which I've always been able to work with the Waterbury folks very well to make sure we get it right.
Thank you, sir. And thank you for coming to North Valley Community College in Waterbury.
Thank you very much.
Rob Sheftel, followed by Daniel Zuniga. Is Daniel here, please? Would you raise your hand if you're here? I just want to make certain. If it's not Daniel, and Bethany Cutler, is Bethany here? Raise your hand, please. These are students who, oh, Bethany, you're back there, okay. Some students have classes.
Yeah, Bethany has a class, so I'd like to give up my seat for a moment. And
just
let our
switch.
student
Sure.
speak.
Yep, Bethany Cutler, please.
Hi there. My name is Bethany Cutler, and I'm a student here in Naugatuck Valley, and I'm also a tutor at a very vital aspect of our college called the ACE. But before I was a tutor, I was a struggling student who had to drop math twice and could not pass it for the life of me. I needed an extra boost that you couldn't get in a classroom setting. I have a lot of math anxiety, and as a lot of people do. And the ACE is the reason why I'm still in school. If I couldn't pass math, I probably would have dropped out. And I know for a fact that there are plenty of other students who rely on the ACE for their success. And I just want to stress how vital this resource is to our college, and I want to make sure that it will stay.
Listen, I was amazed the first time I was here and I toured it. What an incredible job it does, so no.
Because a lot of students go from failing or having to drop classes, and they end up like me, getting A's in math and then tutoring. So I just wanted to stress how
Thank you, I appreciate it.
very important it is.
Thank you. But I have to tell you, I'm feeling very older, much older than usual today, because I'm watching all the students with their questions on their devices. And I still use index cards, so.
Rob Sheftel, and then I believe what we'll do is we'll open it up to the general audience. I think I've gotten all the people who have signed in, is that correct? All of you who have signed in, all right? Rob Sheftel.
President Ojakian, thank you for being here today. This is a difficult time, I get it, you know. But your blue looks great, my green looks great, together with the Untitled Valley Community College. I love our community, and I love the individuals here rally for our students. You know, I just can't help but worry about one major area, and that's academic innovation. Remember PA 1240, Public Act 1240, when it first came out? There wasn't really a mechanism to really help that in a cost-effective way. But our leadership supported us, and we developed a pilot, we tested. The results were very similar to other community colleges that tried supplemental instruction. Well, the college supported us, found a way to make sure that that funding exists, and now, just the last few falls, we've grown by 20% in supporting students. We had over 1,000 students participate in supplemental instruction. They're succeeding more than ever before. So my concern is, with possibly losing local leadership, how does innovative academic programs grow and be nurtured?
I mean, I would encourage everybody. First of all, we don't know what the end result's going to look like. That's why we're having these conversations and having options put in front of me that I can think about. But I would hope that the academic entrepreneurship would continue on a campus and even grow, because the focus is going to continue to be on the connection to the local community and the uniqueness of each institution. Now, every institution isn't like this, right? I mean, and I know that. And every institution doesn't have a very successful satellite campus. I know that. I've had the struggles of satellite campuses to last me a lifetime. But I knew what you were doing in Danbury was important, which is why one of the first things I did when I came to be the president was make sure the building got done, in spite of lots of obstacles, and the fact that your president called me every day, twice a day. But no, I mean, I know how important these things are, so I'm not looking for a one-size-fits-all model. What I'm looking for is a way that maybe we don't have to have every single function, every single institution in 12 campuses the size of Connecticut. Because we're not flush with money. And I know I keep saying this, but the alternative to finding a much more sustainable model is that at some point we'll have 10. And at some point we'll have 8. And then the strongest ones stay afloat. The weaker ones financially go. And what happens to the students?
Dr. Kathleen Willett, is she here? She had to leave, okay. She has written testimony and she'll supply that. Ladies and gentlemen, we're at that point now where it's an open slide.
I actually do read the testimony that's submitted to me, and I've actually changed a couple thoughts in my own mind as I've gotten the constructive thoughts. Both one from a faculty member and the other one from a student.
We have people from the community, some students, and
absolutely.
The mic is open at this point for other questions or comments. I'd like to recognize anyone. I saw this hand first, and then Martha. Would you please go first, and then Martha Burton? And I had one there. Thank you. That's 3 and 4. I got you. Thank you. In that order for now.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Wissing. I'm in the Office of Admissions, and I think my question has to do with timing.
And let me see if I can phrase it. I understand the student first priorities, and I understand the gravity of the situation. Is there any kind of anticipated timing on when decisions will be made and how things might be rolled out? I understand it would take a 2-year implementation for this, but when can we maybe expect to hear something more definitive, or when will we know if it's as drastic as closing 2 campuses like that?
Well, I think, well, first of all, I think the drastic nature of closing campuses is going to depend on the final outcome of the budget. And that could be by July 1st, or could be by, later. I mean, the fiscal year starts July 1st, but I don't have personally a lot of confidence that we'll have a budget by that day. I just think there's too many competing interests that aren't coming together. So, we're now in the process of populating the planning committees. Representatives are being selected by their leadership of each of the groups. And then we'll charge them and they'll start their work. And I'm not going to say by September, because I don't want to set expectations that I know we might not be able to meet. I want to make sure that this is a very thorough and participatory process to get us to the final recommendations. I do know, though, that it's going to take 2 years to really fully implement something. Something's going to be easier than others because, for example, the purchasing work group last year spent a lot of time moving the ball down the road. And so I think we just need to finesse that a little bit more and figure out exactly how it's going to work. But I want to make sure that we do this in the right way. I don't want to have to do it again. Because I think we need to get through this planning process and this restructuring effort and then focus on more positive things in terms of student success and student engagement. But I think this is a necessary part of it if we're going to move forward. Thank you.
Martha Bernstein.
So I'm Martha Bernstein. I'm a member of the board of the foundation. And I say that with great pride because this is a wonderful institution, one that I knew nothing about before about 4 years ago, and I came here on a tour and fell in love with it. So I'm very proud to be a member of this foundation. But my question has to do with your projections, because there's been a lot of conversation, and it's kind of everything that everybody has talked about of importance. You're suggesting, okay, we're going to figure out how to keep that. So, and then there's a projection of a saving of $28 million. So where did the number come from? I mean, how did you get to $28 million if you haven't figured out what is going to be changed so that you can save $28 million? I understand the purchasing thing, and I understand maybe some technology, but you say that the whole leadership thing hasn't been figured out, and maybe it'll be regional, and maybe it won't. So where did $28 million come from?
It was a savings target, right, based on a reduction in the number of administrators in the system as a whole, and it's a target.
So you're saying you need to save $28 million?
No, I don't need to save $28 million. I want to save $28 million, but I'm not going to be foolish enough to say at the expense of what should stay that I'm going to get to that $28 million mark. I mean, we can change this way. It's a target, and it wasn't saying if we don't get to this number absolutely that we're not going to be able to survive. I think we can get close to that amount over a 2-year period with a reorganization of the management of 12 institutions. Now, how that will look, I mean, if we go a regional route, it might save less. I'm trying to find the most effective way to get there without hurting the things that I think are important. And what I find with the things that I said, right, we're going to stay, were the things that I believe should stay in the advance, the financial aid services, the tutoring center, those kinds of things. but in the state the size of Connecticut, to have, in many places, and I haven't looked at here, and I'm not talking about here specifically, but the propensity to hire administrators at the expense of either faculty members or student service people makes me concerned. Makes me concerned.
Thank you.
President Ojakian, my name is Carlene Ball. I'm the ESL program coordinator here at the college. My question is just to ask, how much consideration have you given to the priorities of the new administration, the new Secretary of Education? What kinds of proposals or lack of proposals have you made that could perhaps influence some of your decision making? And also, what is the business community thinking in terms of what we're doing as a system? It seems to me that we've been having a number of years of a lot of vulnerable, a lot of things going on that maybe there are a lot of questions about what are we doing. And so, in terms of outside influences, the Secretary of Education, and also the business community and what we're trying to do to educate our citizens and to do research on how are we doing, how are we learning best. And I don't think we're spending enough time really putting money into how do people learn, maybe having educators talking to scientists. Maybe some more of that kind of research and development would be something that I would, like to suggest.
Well, let me answer the easiest part of the question first, and that is, in talking to the business community, I think they've been concerned, right, that at least at the system level, there hasn't been any sort of consistent, stable leadership to actually take the ball and run with it. That there's very good examples at the campus level of people dealing with business and industry, but until you have a system-wide approach where you can get maybe companies and philanthropic people from around the country who want to invest in a community college system, that's not gonna happen. Now I'm here for at least 3.5 more years. So you can moan or groan or clap, but it doesn't matter. I'm here. On the administration question, I'm quite honestly not expecting anything. Because I'd rather expect the worst, which is not my nature. I mean, it really is not my nature. The glasses are usually half full for me. I'd rather be surprised than disappointed. And I'm so far very disappointed. And I don't think, when we talk about our most vulnerable population, that anybody cares. When you're talking about the disenfranchised students, I don't think anybody cares or is listening. It's the reason I wrote to the president. I never thought I would write anything to President Trump. But I wrote a letter, co-signed by all the presidents, asking them to continue the DACA program. Because I thought it was important that he hear directly from Connecticut. I don't know where grants that we rely on, workforce development funds, Pell money. I'm hoping it will continue to be there, but things change hour by hour, and when you put somebody in charge of something just because they gave you a lot of money, it's not likely that the success is going to be that great. And so I'm hoping it's not going to be bad, but I'm not counting on any additional federal support to help get us through the financial situation that we're in. And that's as nice as I can say.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Mitch. This speaker is coming up, then Mitch, and then,
Hi, President. I'm fine, how are you?
just move the microphone downward, straight ahead, off the, there you go, now you're gonna be fine.
I gotta hold it in my hand.
Okay, she broke it, oh my God.
And you can't take it off my salary. I'm adjunct and I don't make it off.
And that's her comment.
No, I'm Myrna Watanabe. I'm a longtime adjunct in biology here. And I also privately run a grant writing company. My question is just a follow-on to that last question, where you don't have an expectation of perhaps Pell Grants. You don't have an expectation perhaps of new NSF or DOE grants. What about grants you already have? Because they can cut anything at any point in time. They can say, oh, yeah, 25% off.
I mean, it doesn't seem like they're in a position right now of cutting what we currently have, but some of the things that we have are running out. The CAMI grant is coming to an end, and that's why I'm talking to private industry to figure out how they can help support the enterprises that are going to produce the workers for the future. I don't think that they would actually cut and have no Pell Grants. I just don't see the amount for the Pell Grants keeping up with the cost of living and increasing, which is a problem. As you know, whenever we look at tuition, we set it way below the Pell Grant cap, because I know how important it is for a student to use those funds for books or transportation or childcare. So we're watching all of these things, but it's not like we're expecting, because of who the president or the administration is, that all of a sudden we're going to be flush with cash. He's got to build a wall.
Will this mean that you may have to go back to the legislature and say, listen, we can't live with this?
Well, I'm going to tell you what the conversations have been like with the legislature. They've been very clear that they think we haven't done our part to adapt to the fiscal climate that we're living in and that we're going to live in for quite a while. We're not all of a sudden going to have a surplus next year and be able to say, okay, now we're off the hook. I mean, the growth rate of our economy has been 1.5%, 2%. And it doesn't look like it's going to get any better. So what I'm hearing is, you need to do some things on your end to show that you can adapt to this new climate, and then we'll see about, funding. Now, we only got a 4.4% cut. Some functions of government got a 7 or 8% cut. Last year, our original cut was 8%, and because of a lot of hard work by me, by the team, and by your students, and the presidents, our cut was about 4.5%. So we're not arguing now about more money, we're arguing about what is the impact of our cuts. So, you all have legislators, one right here. But, I say this wherever I go. We go to legislative breakfasts, and we'll see, Republican and Democrats. And then the next thing you know, they're up at the Capitol, and some of them want to cut our budget more. Well, you came for breakfast.
Mitch Holmes, Dan Wallace, and then Miguel Moore.
Afternoon. I guess I've got sort of I oversee the business division here, and I've got sort of the macro question going on in my head. And the question relates to having been here 15 years and having watched leadership take us to new buildings, to Hispanic serving institution, to increasing enrollment, to other campuses, to Title III grants, all the great things that we're doing. And then, seemingly when the going gets tough, we're the low-hanging fruit, and we go after community colleges, and we serve, before we talk about the UConns and the police departments and the larger entities that are actually a lot more expensive and serve fewer students than we do. So I'm conflicted about taking good leadership and then not figuring out how to think that we would not be homogenized if we went without leadership. You know, to be able to accomplish the things that we're talking about.
No, I think, listen, I think the point is to come up with an approach that doesn't homogenize, because I understand how different each institution is. Now, we can have a conversation about, is it better to cut spending or raise revenue? We can have a conversation about, you know, what UConn gets or what police department gets, you know.
It seems like we're the most vulnerable, and it's easy to go to the most vulnerable first, or at least that's what I'm feeling about it.
Well, you know, as somebody that runs this system now, I'm feeling vulnerable because of that. Because, you know, I play the cards that I'm dealt, right? So I'm dealt with a fiscal mess, which only gets worse. I mean, we go 38, 55, 70, I mean, it keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse. So if you don't try to do something to maintain this support and the educational quality for the students and not close campuses, then there's tough decisions that you have to make. Now, you know, maybe there will be, you know, a discussion that yields a balance between, you know, cutting and revenue. I don't know what will happen at the legislature. I purposely stay out of that debate. But I've had people who have said, why don't, you know, we have all these millionaires, let's just raise the taxes on the millionaires. The other side says that the millionaires will leave, and you won't have that income tax revenue. You know, I'm dealing with a problem that I think was a long time in the making. Didn't realize how bad it was till I actually got here and examined not only the individual institutions, but the financial position of our system, and we have to do something.
I appreciate it.
I think not this.
Good afternoon, President Ojakian.
Please identify yourself once again.
My name is Dan Wallace. I want to ask you for a clarification of terms, and that would be, how do you define administration? And the reason for my question is the lack of specificity, I believe, is my perception, that it has created an unsettled workforce environment. A lot of question, concern, perhaps anxiety. When you describe a workforce reduction of perhaps 400 people, one could, at a strict definition, say administration is cabinet level, but you'll never total 400 people. One could say it's the administrative units, but that includes public safety, emergency, all of the IT, etc. When you look at the faculty side, if you want to just adjust a definition slightly, you could say anyone who is hiring someone and overseeing someone, adjuncts, lab assistants, etc., you could call them administration. How do you define administration? I'll leave it there. How do you define administration? What impact will these changes have? I understand student first. I understand protecting the faculty. There's a lot of adjuncts that run and deliver programs professionally here. So it's a broader question. How do you define administration?
Don't forget, there's two strategies we're talking about, right? One is how do we take our collective expertise around 17 institutions in what I call administrative functions, which probably is a bad term, but I don't know how else to describe it, right? To come up with a way that not only cuts spending and makes us leaner in terms of the way that we purchase goods and services, but also how do we, but that money, but that number also assumes that if we do things different and better, we'll have more revenue coming in to the system. For example, we'll go back to my example of the financial aid processing. If every institution had a 70% conversion rate on their applications, we would have a much better financial position because of the tuition revenue that comes in, right? If we bid out our food service, say, as one contract with differences between residential and non-residential, who wouldn't want that one contract for a lot less than we're spending around 16? Because Charter Oak, I don't think, has a food service contract virtually. So it's about finding those efficiencies with some targets. Now, when we talk about the one college, that is really meant to take a look at how much management, how much senior management do you need at 12 different institutions in the state the size of Connecticut? Now, maybe everybody will come back and say, we need everybody. That we can't, for example, we had 2 presidents leave, and I replaced them with existing presidents. So now 2 presidents have 2 colleges. Will that work? Hope so. Does it make sense? I think it makes common sense to me until somebody proves me wrong, that it can't work. So we have these targets, we have a model, and as this process goes on, I understand that there's anxiety. I mean, I really do, because I've heard this before. I've seen people try to sell each other down the river in a town hall. No, so I'm serious. It was not a very nice conversation. Because one person was more important than the other person. I'm not here to make those decisions, right? I'm here to say that we have a planning process that will get us to the best results. And the planning process is going to include representatives from each stakeholder group on campuses who actually know what the function is at that level. I keep pointing to the financial aid because that's my favorite new one, says purchasing my favorite example. Because I've gone to, I had to send the Connecticut Distance Learning Consortium out as a SWAT team last year to some institutions to help them complete their financial aid applications. Because they didn't have the people to do it. But they have, and no disrespect to administrators, they had this cabinet that you would not believe, but nobody doing the work. So what happened? The applications weren't completed, the students weren't notified, and people weren't going to enroll in the school. How's that help? So I want to make sure that those services that are so important to all of our students, and I'm not saying that one is more important than the other, but at some point you need to prioritize what you're doing, right? I mean, because, I would love to see a full-time veteran. It's not that you're not doing a great job, but you can only wear so many hats. And so you're doing the best you can, but are we doing the best for the veterans? I don't know. I convened a meeting recently, just so you know, with all of the veterans coordinators and the Commissioner of Veterans Affairs. And there was this young lady there from an institution who just the day before got thrown into the job, had no clue what she was doing, didn't know what any of the jargon was around veterans benefits and services and waivers. Is that what we want to do to our veterans? So we need to just prioritize. That's all I'm asking for.
I agree in the prioritization and in finding efficiencies. And I'm not disputing the approach. One significant function that I forgot to mention is the continuing ed workforce development. Vital feeder to our credit programs and for helping people to find positions and improve their skill set to be employed. I was perhaps offering an opportunity for you to alleviate some of that anxiety and stress and more carefully define administration. I know perhaps it's not a perfect term, but there's many people on this campus, perhaps a majority of people on this campus, who would fall into that category. Is there a way you can help us to better understand what your definition of that?
I think as this process moves forward, we'll be able, to do that. But I'm not, because you run a tutoring center, I know it's administration, but you're running the tutoring center. You're providing a service to the students in that tutoring center. You have a title of associate director, so you're a manager, but you're running that, helping you run that financial aid office, right? And so working with the different stakeholders, we're going to identify what those differences are, and then come up with some proposals that then we can share with the greater community to get their, to get their feedback. So, I mean, I'm not going to sit here today and go, you yes, or you yeah. I mean, I'm not going to do that. And if there comes a point where I feel that every single thing we do in 12 community colleges at every single level needs to be prioritized, and I'll prioritize it. But I think we have to have the discussion.
President, my show of hands shows that we have one last speaker, and then I'll let you take it from there as close when you're ready.
Of course.
Good afternoon, President Jacob.
I love seeing you.
Miguel Mall, for a student here at North Valley Community College and Student Advisory Committee represented here in the school. So, throughout this entire day, you've been talking about consolidation and the backroom consolidation. Let's use financial resources because you've been using them lately. Now, I know they have so many applications. Do you think about when you're doing the consolidation, especially looking at the map of the proximity of the regions of the schools that are together, and you think about regional consolidation, or is it going to be sort of outsourcing some of our own individual expertise to other places to help each other out? Or are you going to be consolidating some of the administration heads, like we have a human resources director here, a financial director here?
You will still have a human resources person on your campus. You will still have a purchasing person on your campus. You'll still have financial aid people on your campus. But it's how can we integrate those functions and do it, for example, the processing all in one place? Can we have one financial aid application for you, for example? Say you fill out one. You can take that anywhere you want to go in our system, into 12, as opposed to if you leave here and you decide you're going to go to Winstead, because they have a Dairy Queen across the street from the college, right? Then you have to go through that whole process again. That does not help you.
So is it almost like an enrollment between all the colleges? But you've been talking about the 12 community colleges.
Yes.
You're talking about the 12 community colleges, but what about the state colleges? Because that's a whole nother beast of trying to get across, especially for classes or getting things over. I know we have about 38 or 20 majors are transferring over. But what about the consolidation of, like...
Well, the administrative consolidation of all of what I call, and no disrespect meant, but I can't think of any way else to say it, those administrative functions are people refer to as back office functions, and I don't mean any disrespect to anybody that does that, is around all of them, right? So the universities aren't happy with me either, right? Because they're saying, why should we have to be in a position to help the community colleges clean up their mess? I'm just being honest. I'm nothing if not honest. And so on the one hand, for example, Central will say, we care so much about the community college piece of this. We really care. That's why, as a philosophy professor at Central, I have no confidence in you. But in the same thing, they will use the words like degrade. Why are you degrading our institutions to bail out the community colleges? That rhetoric is unacceptable. And I will stand in front of them all day tomorrow and make that point. Now, the other thing that you need to know is, besides the TAP program, what I'm trying to move forward, and receiving a little bit of resistance, is in certain major areas of study. For example, say criminal justice. So say you go to, as Untuck, and you have 2 years of a criminal justice degree, and you want to get your bachelor's degree, but you don't have a car, right? It's really hard for you to get down there. Why can't we have the university faculty offer the last 2 years of that program on the campus of a community college? It's not only best for the student, but it also allows the student to remain in the system and we get revenue because they're paying tuition.
Say thank you.
Well, everybody, thank you very much. This has really been good discussion from my perspective. It's been very respectful, and I really appreciate people expressing their opinions in a respectful and a civil way. We may not always agree on everything, but I think people will tell you, you always have an opportunity to express your opinion or talk to me. Doors always open, my email's always available. We're going to need to do this all together, which is why we're putting these planning teams together. And I'm not just, I've been accused by some people of saying, stop threatening us, stop threatening that we're going to close schools, stop threatening that if there's no CBAC agreement, we're going to get cut more. I don't threaten. I actually live in the real world. And I'd like to be able to stand in front of people and tell them the honest truth about what could happen in the future. If there's an agreement, vote for it, don't vote for it. That's your personal opinion and your personal preference. But we have a great system. We have great individuals at all of our campuses, but we have a serious financial problem, and we need to find some way collectively to solve it on behalf of the students. So thank you very much. I'm off to New Britain.